Okay, so what we're going to cover today is everything to do with Versaworks, whether or not you're using Versaworks 5 or Versaworks 6. Everything you see today will be applicable for both versions. So Versaworks 5 is for the older models, Versaworks 6 is for some of the newer models. There will be a function which we'll check out just right at the end, which is the job assistant, which allows users to create cut lines within Versaworks, and that's the only function you don't get in Versaworks 5. So in this instance, we're going to use Versaworks 6. I've got my VG3 set up just as a demo, and what we're going to do is just cover anything from bringing a job in, setting your job up for print, and basically getting the best quality you can out of your print. So when you go into Versaworks, you've got your VG3 540 listed there. Whatever printer you've got, it'll always show in that top left corner. You've got your ink status. So at the minute, obviously it's not plugged in, so it can't read the inks, but what you'll get is a basic view of the ink levels. If one is running low, you get a yellow exclamation mark, which basically means there's less than 20% left. Order your ink, get a new one in, ready for when it does run out. Just to touch on that, if your printer does show that it's running low on ink, just keep running and running the printer until the printer physically stops. If it runs out of ink mid-print, it will allow you to take the ink out, put the new ink in, and it will carry on from where it left off. So don't be afraid to just keep running until it is virtually empty. This column here is the job queue, and you've also got a print status and a RIP status. In the center, you've got all your print settings, and on the right-hand side, you've got a visual of what will be in your print queue. So for instance, if you've got hundreds of jobs in your print queue, if someone comes back to you in a few months and says, can I have that job again, but can I have it twice as big, twice as small? If you can't remember what the job's called, you'll see a visual on it on this right-hand side. So when you select it on the right, it will also select it in your job queue as well. So it will be very low resolution. So don't worry if it looks blurred on the right-hand side. It won't print like that. It's just to save the memory of the actual software. In your job queue, the jobs will always stay in the queue until you physically delete them yourself. So after printing, like I say, if someone does come back to you in a few weeks, in a few months, and needs that job again, then you can just go back into it, change whatever settings you need to, and go from there. A new function in Versaworks 6 is you now have 5 queues, whereas in Versaworks 5 you only have 2. So as you can see on my version, I've set up A to be self-adhesive vinyls, B for banners, and C for HTV. You also have a D and an E queue, so depending on what you want to do, you can separate the job queues for certain materials, or like sometimes I'll just use QA for everything and change it as I need it. But the option is there to edit the queue settings. So you see next to each queue there is a cog, so you click on that and it basically opens your queue settings. Whatever you set in this box here will be set for everything you bring into that queue. So say if you're doing 99% stickers, you can set one queue up for stickers, set the color management, the speed, the quality. So all you're doing every time is bringing the job in, setting the quantity, and go from there. So you're not changing all the settings every time. You're setting a basis on that queue. So when you bring the job in, it's more or less ready to go. So like I say, 5 queues for you to edit as you wish. You can edit it as well. So once you've done it, you can change the name of the queue. Just type in whatever it needs to be. Okay, so what we'll do now is bring a job in. 2 ways of doing it on Versaworks. You can go to File, Add Job, to queue, and you can select which queue you want to bring the job into. So for this one, for instance, I'm going to do a batch of stickers. So in QA is my self-adhesive vinyl. Double click on whatever you want to bring in, and it'll bring it into the queue for you. QD, there it is in the queue, and you'll also, like I say, you'll see a low resolution version of what is in that queue. It won't print at that low resolution. Like I say, it's just to save the memory of the software. There is also another way. You can click and drag, so get your design, click and drag it into the queue if you know where the location of the file is. So what we want to do now is tell the printer how many copies you want to do, what material you're printing onto, and what colour management, etc., etc. So what we'll do is you can either double click on the job and it will open up the job settings, or you can select the job, go to the cog, and that will also open the job settings. So at this point, again, you'll see a lot of functions in here, but what we're going to do is just do it as a very basic starter. Like I say, you might be used to all these settings. It's just to get printing. So in this, we're going to concentrate on the layout, the quality, the printer controls, and the job management and the cut controls. So again, a lot of settings in here, but we're planning on doing other Zoom meetings on more in depth on the colour management and the tiling. So the first option you have is the layout. So this is just setting your vinyl size, your page size, what scale, how many copies you want to do. So for instance, this is the sticker, this is the decal, this is the vinyl. What you don't get on the older versions of Versaworks 5, is this option down below. So you might have this view. Personally, I don't like that view because it's upside down. So what they've added is a user view. So now as you look at that page, the bottom right corner is the base point on your printer. So as you look at that screen, that's how it's going to print on the printer. If you press Get Media Width, the software will talk to the printer will feed back whatever size vinyl it's measured, and that will give you your working area on the sheet. We will come back to a setting in a second, which is called Custom Cut. It is a setting that not many people get shown unless you go on a training course or you watch in-depth YouTube videos. So what we'll do, we'll come to that in a little while. So at the minute, we're going to do, say you want 250. The reason I've done 250 is because the maximum you can have on there is 250 stickers. So for now, I'll just do it. We'll do 50. Okay, so we're going to do 50 stickers. Ideally, what we're going to do then is you can change the size, so you can fit to media size, it'll make it the size of the vinyl. Ideally, that's just for demo purposes. Most people want a job 2 size, so you can just edit the size in your artwork. You can edit the size in Versaworks. Editing the size in Versaworks will keep it proportional, so you can't change a custom of width and height. If you change the width, the height will change with it to keep it proportional. So if you need a custom size, you have to go back into your artwork and do it there. Center on the media just puts it in the middle of the page. And then you've got the tile spacing in between each one. So depending on the size of the job, you've got a little gap there that you would call sort of wastage. So if you minimize the gap between each one, you can normally fit another one on that side. Just be careful. I always advise setting a space, because if you've got a cut line, if you put 0 space and the cut lines are going to overlap and you'll get double cuts. So I always put at least a 2 mil gap on my stickers. As you come down, you get orientation. So again, these are just square stickers, circle stickers. So no matter which way you turn it, more or less, they're going to be the same. But on this case, you can see that you can orientate it, and you can maybe squeeze a few more in. So as you see there, you can fit a couple more in just by rotating it. So like I say, that's just a basic layout. That's choosing your vinyl width, your sizes, your copies. One thing I will show you is something called Custom Cut. So we'll just ramp this up because my keyboard is failing to work. So what we'll do, we'll just put this up a little bit. What I'm going to show you now is something called Custom Cut. If it's something you haven't seen before, it's a really good function if you've got a long run of print and cut stickers to do. As you know, the Roland will print all your stickers first and then cut afterwards. The only problem with that is if you're doing 10 meters worth of stickers, you don't want to print all the 10 meters and then roll the 10 meters back to cut. So what you can do is separate the job into smaller increments. So for instance, this job's just coming under 3 meters. So what we'll do is I'll show you the custom cut setting. So the first thing you do is set up how many copies you want. Click get media width and it will give you a width. So for instance, that's 1346. Copy that, and then if you drop down that menu there, you'll have a custom cut option. This then will make the height available, and this is where you're deciding how often it prints and cuts. So for instance, if you've got a 10-meter sheet, you can choose to print and cut every meter, every half a meter, and you can just tweak it from there then, whichever, you can put it into more manageable pieces. So once you're in custom cut, don't press get media width again because it'll reset it back to a custom roll. That's the reason I copied the width, and then you can just paste it in there and that will give you the width. Like I say, the most important thing with custom cut is don't click get media width. So for instance, on the height, I always start off separating it into, it's about time for the keyboard to back in, but you can separate it into separate parts. Sorry about this, keyboard's. But like I say, you can separate it into certain increments. So I always start off at a half a meter increment. So then over 3 meters, it's going to separate it into 6 separate pieces. So it's going to print and cut that half a meter, then print and cut the next half meter, then print and cut the next half meter. And all you're doing is making it more manageable for yourself and for the printer. The last thing you want is to print 10 meters worth of vinyl, goes to cut and it messes up 3 meters in because then you wasted that 7 meters. At least if it messes up 7 meters in, at least you've got 7 meters of workable vinyl and stickers, and you just have to send the other 3 meters. Again, it's the keyboard's sort of packed in, so what I'll do is just try and explain it, and we can send out links to, I've done a YouTube video on the custom cut, so any information you need after this, I can send that out and you can have a quick look at how it's done. But that's the custom cut setting, like I say, puts it into more manageable pieces for yourself. So you've got that set up. If you go to the print quality, this is where you choose what you're printing onto, what print quality, and the colour management setting. We are planning to do a colour management course in the next few weeks. Again, if you're colour matching, colour profiling, it's fairly important that you get your colour management right. So in the media type, depending on what printer you've got, the BN20, the VGs, the SGs, the UVs, they'll all have different settings on there. So for instance, on the VG3, you get your vinyl 1 through 3, you get your 2 banners, you get your paper, your backlit, and your heat transfer. So you selecting whichever one you want to print on. Obviously the heat transfer is for clothing, the backlit is for anything you want to let light through the vinyl. The generic paper can be posters, pull-up banners, pull-up posters, and then generic banner can be for banners and for canvases. For this instance, we're just going to use a generic vinyl. Doesn't matter which one it is. On the older versions of Versaworks 5, it would change the head speed. We're on Versaworks 6. Depending on what printer you've got, it doesn't do that. So we'll choose generic vinyl 2. Again, doesn't really make too much difference which one you choose. In the print quality, you'll have high quality, standard, and high speed. And next to it, it will give you an estimate of how long that job's going to take. I was always told that the time next to it is how long it takes print only. But with the newer models, that time seems to include, and is a lot quicker than what it says there. It tends to include the cutting as well. So it is only an estimate. It can be quicker, it can be a little bit longer, but I've always known it on the newer machines, such as the Truvies and the LEC2s, that is just an estimate, and it will be more or less be done a bit quicker than that. So high quality will more or less take twice as long as standard because it's using more passes. High speed will be a lot quicker. So we use high speed for labels, basic stickers. Standard you can use for photographs, block colours, and again, high quality is for your high quality photos, lots of colour and lots of detail. So for now, we'll set it to standard. As you come down, you've got your mode. So in each print quality, you'll have a different number of passes. So the higher the quality, the more passes. So in standard, you've got a 10 and 12. In high quality, you've got a 13 and a 16. We'll skip this bit for the minute, apart from the direction. A helpful tip on the direction. Bi-direction obviously will print both ways. So it'll print going left, print again coming right. Your printer should be calibrated to do that. If not, you can go into your menu in your printer and run the bi-directional adjustment or the media gap adjustment if you've got a newer Truvies, such as the VG3, the VG2s, etc. If you're doing text any smaller than 5 mil, so like your labels for food, for drinks, for any sort of packaging, I always sort of advise doing unidirection. Unidirection will only print one way, so you're guaranteed to get a sharp finish on your smaller text because it's not relying on the calibration of the bi-direction. You can get a slight blur on smaller text if you do use bi-direction. The only thing about that is it does double the amount of time of your print. So 31 minutes on bi-directional, 58 minutes unidirectional. That is because it's only printed one way. So a little tip there when you're doing small text. As you come down, you've got colour management. So again, we are planning on doing a Zoom meeting in the next few weeks, hopefully along with another colour expert who can explain in more detail what colour means, what you can get from your printer regarding colour. So for the time being, there's probably 3 or 4 that I use. Sign on display will always match whatever colour you're using up to 97%. So if you're doing a red heavy logo, it will use 97% magenta and maybe use the other 30% of the other colours involved in your machine. Depending on your machine, that can differ, but sign on display I use for 99% of products. Pre-press general is good for your black and white images, your grayscale images. So if you need to hit a certain grey, especially if you've got the light black in your machine, that can help in that process. Same for pre-press US, that is also good for your black and white images. And then the pre-press Europe is good for photographs, so skin tones. So if you've got your light cyan, light magentas, that helps with the quality of skin tones. And then the max impact, if you're using a matte vinyl or the HTV, which is the heat transfer vinyl, that tends to come mostly in matte, and the reds, blues, pinks can be a little bit faded. But just setting to max impact can make them stand out a little bit more. Again, everyone's opinion on colour differs, which is why we're going to be doing a separate sort of meeting on that, hopefully in the next few weeks, and have someone sort of give their views on colour as well, just to give you a bit more idea of how it can improve your print. Okay, so that's your quality settings. So you're just choosing what material you're using and the quality that you wanna use on your printer. As you come down, you've got, like I say, we will sort of briefly have a look at some of these, but the colour adjustment is tweaking the colour that is outputted from your printer. I've never used this. I always set the colour management to whichever one works best for me. So it's worth doing a few test prints at the colour management settings that you need. File format. So if you're still using EPS file formats, when you bring in a logo, sometimes one of the sides can be trimmed off. So you can set a margin up to whatever margin you want. I always set about 1 mil margin, and that allows you to bring in a job and it doesn't cut any of the job off. It only happens on EPSs. Again, these days, most people use PDFs, so you don't get that problem, thankfully, on the PDF. It's just on the EPS format. As you come down, you've got the registration marks. So again, this is another meeting we're planning to do, is your print, laminate, cut. We have got a video on our YouTube as well, which you can go and have a look at. It's at the Vinyl Guys. That will show you how to print, laminate, and cut on your Roland printer. It's a really handy thing to do if you're doing sort of outdoor signage, outdoor stickers. Printer controls, again, we'll briefly go over that because most of it is all set on your printer. So this is your feed calibrations, your heat settings, and also you can add a drying time on certain materials. So things like canvas, sensitive photo papers, you can add a drying time before it goes to cut. And then the most important one when you're doing print and cut is obviously your cut settings. So you've got 4 options within this. You've got print and cut and print, print only and cut only. Print and cut will do what it says in the tin. If you've got a print and cut design, it will print all your design first and then cut afterwards. If you're using custom cut, like I say, it'll print half a meter, then cut it, then move on to the next one, Cut and print is a new function within Versaworks 6. This will allow you on some of the cheaper vinyls, they tend to shrink and also they don't dry as fast. So you can cut first and then print afterwards. This way it's not marking your print if it isn't dry in time before it cuts. The print only is for if you're doing banners. Again, if you're doing a banner and you haven't got a cut line around it, even if it's set to print and cut, the machine won't do that anyway. So print only will just print. That's also for your print, laminate, cut. So when you do print, laminate, cut, you print it out with the crop marks, bring it back, laminate it, put it back in your machine, and then cut only, which is at the bottom, will then cut around your logo. So it'll always be set at print and cut as default. Like I say, if you haven't applied a cut line within your Illustrator, CorelDRAW, or through Job Assistant, if there's no cut line, it won't cut, even if it's set to print and cut. So if you're doing banner, don't worry, it's not going to come out and cut and ruin your blade, ruin your cutting strip. The cut image boundaries is just a weed box. So if you're doing hundreds of stickers, it will put a weed box around it for you. And that just allows you to, when you get out of the machine, just to quickly whip off the excess vinyl, app tape, send the stickers out, whatever you need to do with it, it just speeds the process up a little bit. Clip and tile, we will, again, tiling is another process. So if you're doing wallpapers, large vehicle graphics, if you've only got a BN20, a 30-inch machine, you can separate your job into tiles, so you can do them bigger jobs. So that is something we're planning on covering in the next few weeks. What you can do is clip and tile. You can clip your jobs. If you've got a certain part of your job you don't want to print, you can just click and drag. And then that will just allow you just to print that part of the job. So it will completely ignore anything else in that job apart from the bit that you've selected. And then you've got a few more options, variable data, which is a bit more in depth. Planning on covering that in the next few weeks, as well as the special colours. So if you're using the white ink, the gloss on your UV, embossing, that's all included in the special colour, palette, which is your white, gloss, etc. So your everyday print, you're coming in, setting up your quality, your quantities, coming into there, setting what you're printing onto, so your banners, your vinyls, and then choosing your cut settings. After that, you press OK. And what you'll see, one thing again to look at is your ink consumption. So in ink consumption, it now tells me it's estimated it's going to be using 3.2 cubic centilitres of ink. Depending on what machine you have, it's around 20 pence. So this is a way of quickly working out how much ink you're using. So for this one, you're using just over 65p worth of ink to do them stickers. And with that, you can work out a quick, rough guide of how much it's cost you to make that job. So if you're printing on self-adhesive vinyl at £5 a metre, you've done a metre's worth of stickers, it's cost you £5 plus the 65p. The job in consumables has cost you £5.65, and then you can put on your labour on top. So it's just a very basic view of how much ink you've used, how much vinyl you've used, and you can work it out yourself from there then. Just a quick one as well, you can nest in. So if you've got a number of jobs to do, so if you've got 5 or 6 jobs to do on one vinyl, one material, you can nest them jobs. So you can send them all at once, go away, have a cup of tea, go and speak to a client, go and do some design work, and just let the printer carry on with its thing. So for instance, if you click, Control, click, Shift, he says, there we go. At the bottom, you've got your nest option. So what that does is put however many number of jobs you've got into one, and that will allow you then to set that job up as you wish. So for instance, if we wanted 100 of them, what it will do, it will position the jobs the best way possible to make the most out of your material. So if we added some more of them on top, it will position your job the best way possible to fit however many you need. So you can go away, you've got 5 or 6 different jobs on that material, you press print, go away and leave it to its own devices. And you come back, it's all done, ready to go, ready to be chopped, ready to be sent. Okay. So that was just a very basic look at the setup of a basic job in Versaworks. We will be looking over the next few weeks to be doing a bit more in depth of some of the settings you've seen today. So the new settings within Versaworks 6. So the job assistant where you can add cut lines, the colour management, the tiling, and just getting the most out of your printer really. So for now, thank you for joining us. I apologise with a few hiccups. If it's like I say, if there's anything you need after this meeting, drop us an email, drop us a phone call if you're in the UK or if you're in the US. Just give us a shout. We can send whatever documentation you need. And that includes the link to the YouTube channel, which is at the Vinyl Guys. You'll see things on there such as custom cut, print laminate cut, your maintenance of your machine, nozzle masking. But like I say, we've got videos on there. We will be doing more in the next few weeks. So for the time being, thanks again. Thanks for your time, and hopefully you've either learned something or you've refreshed your mind today, and we can then crack on with getting back to work and making the most out of your printer. So thanks again. I'll see you all soon.